Hello YouTube. I've been putting off making this video because I get like anxiety and I'm a scared little puppet, but I'm just going to try and go for it. I'm talking kind of quietly because Adam's in the next room and I get really shy recording in front of him, but why would my brain let me record this in the middle of the day when no one's home, when it could want to record it when Adam's here? So, the title of this may seem a bit unusual, but before I started my YouTube channel, like, I'm gonna give a bit of story time. Before I started my YouTube channel, I started doing this challenge, and as I went on my YouTube channel, I was like, oh, okay, I could make a video about this one day when I complete it, and I think that was part of what kind of helped the motivation of it as well. But at the beginning of 2018, January 31, no, not January 31, I was going to say December 31, at the beginning of, the end of 2017, let's say that, I had been noticing that I had really started to depend on food emotionally to get me through. I wasn't obsessive eating, but it was kind of like as soon as I was emotionally upset by something, it was like pizza, ice cream, whatever, like straight away, all the time, in those instances. And, you know, in the past I've eaten stuff like that, but it was getting to the point where I was like, okay, this is gonna turn. I've had an eating disorder in the past, but it was very different from where I was. And so I started to think more and more about cutting out junk food for 2018, or what I considered to be junk food. So stuff like chocolates, cakes, like greasy pizzas, really greasy, say, Chinese food, and just, you know, all the kind of things that you look at and you go, that's definitely not considered healthy food. And I spoke to Adam about it, and at the time he was a bit like, just because I'd said, oh, I'm thinking of only having 5 cheat days in the entire year. And he was so used to me just being like, I'm upset, Tesco 40p chocolate bar, that I think he was a bit like, is this doable? Like, I think a little part of him was perhaps concerned because he knew he'd had my eating disorder in the past, and he didn't want me to perhaps create a goal that was too unachievable. But I think for me, I almost needed to set a challenge that was so out there to a lot of people that I would like feel motivated to follow it, because I got to this point where, like I say, I was depending on it so much emotionally that I wanted to see how I dealt with emotional upsetting situations in 2018 without having all that junk, and what that would be like and how my body would feel physically. Like, I wasn't doing it to lose weight or anything like that. I had a few people at the beginning that were like, oh, you're trying to lose weight but you're not fat, or you're skinny enough, and all these things, and it was kind of like, that's not what I'm saying, that's not what this is. So yeah, my goal was to go through 2018 with 5 cheat days and kind of just like follow it along the way and write down bits and pieces about it. For the most part, I forgot to do that because it became so normal for me to not eat junk that when I did eat junk, it kind of like went over my head a little bit in terms of the 5 days. And sadly, I ended up doing 8 days, 8 days of junk food rather than 5. But there's a reason for that, but I'll get to that. So the first junk food day I did, it came in a set of 2 actually. So I didn't eat junk food for the first few months, and then it came in a burst of 2 because mine and Adam's favourite restaurant was closing down. Or we thought it was closing down. So we went to visit it, and it was in Manchester, so it was kind of like, okay, we were making a trip of it, we were staying over in a hotel, and I thought, okay, I wasn't planning to go to this restaurant anytime soon. I was planning to like just spend the time in my own city and not have anything massively like junk food. But we ended up going to Manchester, so I was like, okay, this has got to be 2 days out of my 5, but that's okay. And it was lovely, but I did feel really ill. I felt really ill, but I feel like it had been a while, but it hadn't been that long, so it was almost like my body was still kind of used to it, but it was also a little bit like, what is happening? And then the next junk date was like a few months down the line, and it was Adam's brother's wedding. I felt really sick after that. And what was weird about that was I'd been having porridge every day without any sugar or anything like that, just with oat milk or whatever. And it never tasted plain to me. It always tasted really plain to me in the past, but in this instance, I could eat it and it wasn't a problem. And then we ate a load of junk food at the wedding, and then the next day I had my porridge the next morning, and I said to Adam, I said, did you make this with water? He said, no. I said, it tastes really plain. He said, it's made same as normal. And it was just so interesting how automatically that seemed too plain for my taste buds. And yet I'd been eating it for months with no problem, and then I had it after eating chocolate and all the day after, and my body was just like, didn't want it. And that was a bit of a shocker to me, because I wasn't expecting that, because it's just weird. Like, I could never eat porridge in the past without loads of sugar or like chocolate or fruit or all of that in it, or I could never drink tea unless I had like 5 teaspoons of sugar in, whereas now I drink tea nearly every day just with milk and hot water. And to me, I couldn't even imagine putting sugar in it now. It's just like, ooh. Another cheat day I had was in Loughborough when we were visiting Adam's friends. It was one of those, it wasn't intended to be a cheat day, but we got there and we ordered food, and the food that came to me just felt too junky to try and call it not junk food. And also Adam's friends had bought him a load of birthday presents, which was like a load of vegan chocolate, and a lot of it was like my favourite vegan chocolate from my memory, and it was stuff that Adam wasn't going to eat because he wasn't into that. He was only like into white chocolate, or he wasn't into some of the flavours that were there. And so there's me there that's like handed a load of free vegan chocolate that needs to be eaten by someone, and a greasy takeaway in front of me, and it just was like, okay, I guess this is another cheat day, even though it wasn't planned to be, because it was just like, well, I found throughout the year, when it wasn't in my home, when I wasn't surrounding myself with it, I was fine. Like, in the first few weeks, I still had some cravings, but like they quickly died off. But then all the other times throughout the year, I was just like chill. Like, I didn't feel like I was missing out. I wasn't like, oh, it's me. It felt fine. It was only when I was around other people that were eating stuff like that my brain was like, oh, I want to be a part of this. And it was almost like joining in with the social norm rather than because I actually wanted to eat it or that it made sense to eat it. I also realised that a lot of the time that I would eat junk in the past as well would be if I was in an anxious situation. So if I was over someone's house and I was friends with that person but I wasn't necessarily that comfortable, I would always take junk food. It was almost like the rush of the junk food was almost like my own version of getting drunk, because I don't drink alcohol. And it's just weird how much kind of shit you discover about your brain when you're like away from it, rather than just like constantly like feeding yourself that stuff. Like, I've spoken to so many people about it, and so many people have been like, you're crazy, or I don't know how you did it, or this, that, and the other. Like, I felt bad originally thinking, oh, it was going to be 8 days. But then, like, to look back, it's like, if I hadn't have done that, I would have eaten junk maybe every 2 or 3 days throughout the year, rather than 8 total days for an entire year, which is really fucking cool. After Loughborough, I can't remember what the 5th cheat day was, which is like sad, because it means that it obviously wasn't that important for me to have it as a cheat day, because I can't literally remember what it was in the entire year. And then the last 3 days, which made up to the 8 days, was the trip to Manchester that I had recently. As I said, we thought the restaurant was shutting down at the beginning of the year. We went to visit it, there wasn't any more plans to carry on. Then it carried on a little bit and had a pop-up for Christmas dinner, but this was like the final we're gone forever kind of thing, because they no longer had like a sweet shop or anything. It was just like, this is it, and then like, bye. So we were like, well, like, I said to Adam, I said, the thing is, I know I said 5 days for the year and I really, really want to complete that. I said, but I will kick myself forever if I don't go back and experience Tea Time Collective one more time, just because of this challenge. Because even 8 days is still amazing when you consider how many days are in a year. Like, it's not that far off 5. It's not like I've gone from 5 to like 35 or whatever. Like, it's still like a really high success rate, like 99 point whatever percent success rate. So I ended up doing that. And my God, did I feel ill. As amazing as the food was, I felt like death. The first day, I really overate. It wasn't as bad the second day, but the first day, I really overate. Overindulged in cake, overindulged in like food and all sorts. It's weird because I'd eaten that much that I felt like I was having a panic attack. Like, we were back in the hotel and we'd eaten and happy and such, and then it's like my heart was racing and I felt really sick and I just couldn't even sleep. I was just like, had to sit up in bed and just stay there, and I was like, my brain was just like, why have you done this to your body? You feel awful. Like, this is horrible. Now, even Adam was like, I don't know why I've done this to my body. I feel awful, I feel awful, I feel awful. And then ironically, like 2 hours later when he felt better, he was like, ooh, I could get cake tomorrow. And it's crazy how when you're in the midst of it, you're like, it's like when people are like really ill from drinking and they're hungover, they're like, I'm never drinking again. It's not worth this experience, blah, blah, blah. And then as soon as you feel better, the craving side of you is like, oh, but I could have one beer, or I could have another slice of cake, or I won't feel as bad as yesterday. So the next day we did it much lighter. I still felt quite sick, but I didn't end up feeling like I was having a panic attack as I did the first day because we'd gone much lower with the food. The third day I felt very, very sick again. Not panicky, but just overall sick, and I was so excited to get back home and just eat like normal food, like steamed potatoes and vegetables and like pie and just really basic ass food. And I didn't expect that because I love the food in Manchester, but it's almost like mine and Adam's bodies are getting to this point where it just can't deal with eating that kind of food anymore. Like, as amazing as it tastes, it's like our bodies aren't made for it. And when I left Manchester, I brought a cake back from Tea Time Collective, like a big cake that we'd paid for, because I thought, oh, if Tea Time shut forever, I want to be able to still enjoy it in a sense. So we froze the cakes, and the plan was to have a slice of cake every month or so in 2019 and see how that was. And so I knew that, okay, January 1st was going to be a cheat day of sorts because I was going to have a slice of cake. And I had the cake on January 1st, and my heart, like, it went into more of a panic than it did when I was in Manchester on the first day of the last trip. And it really scared me. Like, my heart was full on racing. I felt really sick. I felt really nauseated. And it wasn't because there was anything wrong with the cake. The cake was amazing. Like, the cake's the best cake there ever was. Like, I loved it in time, other than the fact that it destroys me, apparently. And it was just bizarre. I had to go to sleep because I felt so sick. And I mean, to be honest, it was a big piece of cake, but still, I feel like my body has literally just gotten to this point where it's been like, you've gone like an entire year with only 8 instances of eating this stuff. I think we're done. I think it's time that you give up food like that. And so in that instance, I was like so sure. I was like, that's it, done. Like, maybe I'll eat another slice of cake in 3 months, but I don't even know. Right now, I don't even know. And then like 3 hours later when I was feeling better, I was like, oh, there's chocolate that people bought me for Christmas. I don't want it to be wasted. So then I ate that as well. And again, I felt so sick, and I was just like asking myself why I do it to myself. And then it was like, because as soon as you don't feel bad, the craving side of you is like, oh, you could eat this. And I hate that craving side that controls the decisions I make. And I hate that those decisions I then make affect me so much physically. And it really makes you question whether the payoff is worth it. Just weird habits slip back in, and I just don't want that to happen with the cakes. And so, like I said, I've said it that I'm having maybe 1 cheat day a month for the next 3 months, or like, I'm not even sure. I feel like I might do the second, like the 1st of February, and then be like, I'm broken again. And it's just amazing how clean eating just makes you feel so much better. Like, there are certain junk foods now that I don't care about going back to at all. Like, I don't care about going back to crisps. I don't even really care about going back to ice cream. Like, not as in like never or whatever, but like, no part of me right now is like, oh, I want to sit over to Ben and Jerry's, the vegan one or whatever. Like, it's just like, even, but it's weird, like, even like when I think of like blocks of chocolate and all that right now, it's like I don't crave it. But then when something gets put in front of you and you're not feeling ill or whatever, you're kind of like, I don't know. I think there's a lot of different aspects of self-care, and I think me doing this year was a big self-care for myself. And so I don't want this year to be in waste. I don't want it to be like, yes, I did that year, and then like now, like whatever. And so I'm going to try and like stay on good habits and not get into that kind of, oh sure, I'll eat a packet of crisps and all that, because that's how it starts again. God, one thing that I noticed throughout the entire year though, everyone tries to feed me cake. and chocolate and sweets. Not even because of this challenge, like majority of people didn't even know, but it's like everyone's just like, oh, here's a free vegan brownie, like at work, and I'm like, oh, it's okay, you can have it, and they're like, I wouldn't take a vegan brownie away from you because you can't eat any of the cakes, and I'm like, oh, thank you, and then I have to take it away and try and find a homeless person because I'm not going to eat it. It was kind of like, it almost just felt like there was just free cake and chocolate, like, everywhere. Like, even on my birthday, like, I thought about whether I wanted to have, like, a cupcake or a cake or something, and it just, this was at the time when I had cheat days left and I hadn't planned out what the rest of them were going to be for. And I just didn't even want to, even on Adam's birthday. We were so used to being clean, which sounds funny. We were so used to eating clean that all that kind of association was like, okay. I mean, the hardest day, if anything, was probably Christmas Day. But I think the reason being was because of the fact that I'd just come off of Manchester. I was all happy about being engaged, we'd been eating junk food there, and then we went to Adam's parents, and there was like all kinds of dessert pies and chocolates, and Adam's mum had bought me chocolate for Christmas, and I was just sitting there looking at it in the bag, obviously not eating it. And it's like everyone is talking about it, and like when I'm at home and there's nothing here, fine. When I was at Adam's parents' Christmas Day, it was just like, I felt left out, and it's like, why am I left out? Because I'm choosing not to put something in my body that makes my body feel bad. It's like rewriting the psychology in your brain. But yeah, I think junk food and me in the future are just like, no. I think once I run out of that 2-time cake, if I can even stomach it for a future, because like I say, it's like my body goes into overdrive for the amount of caffeine and the chocolate and all that, like, then maybe we'll see where I go from there. But gotta be a healthy bitch, I think. I think reaching 25, my body's just being a bit like, we're done now. We're done with that junk food. We're finished. We're finished.